Hello, everybody. We are back with another live broadcast coming at you tonight as I guess the world waits with bated breath to see what the Trump administration decides to do with Venezuela. It seems now that there are a lot of mixed signals coming out. So, everything that we say tonight will be with incomplete information. And in the coming weeks, we'll know more. But at the same time, I think this is a good time to do this stream, as we're kind of the U.S. policy towards Venezuela is unfolding and being decided right in front of our eyes. So it was a perfect time to come to you guys and break down what's going on, all the illegal strikes on Venezuela and future prospects there. But yeah, what do you think, Carlos?
I think at this moment, you can ask a crackhead on the side of the street who has no idea where Venezuela is, what's going to happen, and he's going to have as good a chance at telling you the truth as any of us. Because, I mean, what the fuck? The last few weeks, the last few days, the last few hours, everything has been so confusing. There's so many mixed signals, and it could go one way, it can go another. I saw George Galloway put a video up from his program a few days ago saying he didn't think there was going to be an invasion. And then yesterday he had to put another video up saying that he might have been wrong and there will be an invasion. And then I wonder if tomorrow's program is going to go back to saying, shit, I might have been right and then wrong and then right. And it's like, what the fuck? So at this point, just ask a crackhead to flip a coin and just go with that. You're going to be as likely to get the right answer as a good analysis of the facts, because everything is just so muddled and confused. And, who knows? But we're going to try our best to break down this contradictory information coming to us in today's program.
Absolutely. Before we play the intro, I just want to say it. I don't know if the U.S. regime, even knows what it's doing. I know they're probably debating it right now as they scarf down pizza. It's just like Randy Fine banging on the table saying, "Let's invade." And Trump's like, "I'm not sure."
This is the real Hegelian critique of the Kantian would say, we're the ones that don't know. There's a gap between what the entity is doing and us. The real Hegelian critique is what you just said. No. They themselves do not know what they're doing. And our lack of knowledge is also a lack that is in the object itself.
It's true. I mean, I don't even know if I should say this, but one of my friends from one of my wrestling buddies is stationed over there outside Venezuela right now, and he doesn't know. He's like, dude, I don't fucking know. They don't tell us shit. He's like, I hope I don't get sent in. I'm like, bro, you're gonna get blown up by a Venezuelan soccer mom. And he's like, I'll let one blow me up any day. Sorry. That's neither here nor there. But
that's a different type of boys trip to Venezuela.
It reminds me of like we tend to think that these decisions are made above our heads, right? There's like this idealistic notion about politics in America. Like we have this perfect and divine system ordained by God, and our leaders are appointed by, or basically appointed by God. In many ways we are a Christian nation in some sense. It's like written into our founding documents. But really, like, the decisions are just made by white collar criminals behind closed doors. Like, if you read about the fall of communism in Eastern Europe and in Russia, it's like it was just a bunch of criminals and gangsters like robbing this country. It wasn't any higher minded thing or, people making decisions that are, beyond the comprehension of a normal working people. It was just the looting of a foreign country that decided to just dismantle entire nations and steal their resources overnight. So that could be what's going on with the U.S. State Department. Trump's just going back and forth. Should we destroy this nation and steal their oil, or should we not?
As our comrade Haas is fond of saying, there's nothing behind the veil. We tend to assume, because it's the nature of authority to assume that there's something elusive and all-knowing and almost like all-powerful behind the veil of power. But the emperor is naked. There's nothing there. These people are genuinely retarded. And it's like that old Marx Brothers joke. He looks like an idiot. He sounds like an idiot. But don't be fooled. He is an idiot. So there you go.
I love it. All right, we'll get into breaking all this down right after the intro.
High Sheriff Hazard is a hard man.
All right. We got RBN to Nick saying it looked like Trump backed down, no declaration of war. True, but also that doesn't mean there won't be a declaration of war because I mean if the US were to do it tonight, Venezuela would be expecting that. I imagine when they launch the war, if they do put boots on the ground, it'll be a surprise attack. They'll try to do it at a time when the Venezuelans aren't prepared for it. That's how they did Iraq. That was Operation Shock and Awe. They basically just pummeled the country when they weren't expecting it with bombs. Took out all of their major military installations in about a week, and then boots on the ground followed. I imagine that's would go similar, except there's a lot more jungles and mountainous regions in Venezuela that could be the battleground for guerrilla warfare, Vietnam style. So, yeah, we'll see how it plays out, though.
Yeah, and remember that Tucker Carlson said earlier today on Judge Napolitano's show that in Trump's address to the nation, he was going to basically mention that we're going to war with Venezuela. So there's a few people that were saying, Tucker was wrong, what a liar, yada, yada, yada. But we intervene in the world actively when we act. And if something was going a certain way and a person intervenes and says, this is the way that it's going, maybe by naming the trajectory itself, you intervene in the trajectory. And if something was going to be said explicitly in the Address the Nation speech, which might have had, more proximity with when an attack might have been planned, who knows if the strategy or the tactics for this larger strategy had to change last minute because something maybe had been said that we didn't want people to know until later on in the day. So who knows? Again, it's all up in the air, and we'll only know what was going on in retrospect.
True. Very true. As always, it's always we get more details after the fact when more information is leaked and people speak out and we see what plays out on the ground. Thank you for the super chat, comrade. I'm not going to try to pronounce that name because I'll just butcher it, but thank you for that, and thank you for being a YouTube member. The Finnish Bolshevik, who I really like his channel, recently made a video on Operation Kagar in India. These international communists always seem to support Maoists who killed genuine communists and killed innocent civilians. Yeah, I don't know too much about them. But I do know there were a lot of Maoist organizations in the last century who were like dogmatic and almost like borderline religious, like tried to make Marxism into a religion, and committed some excesses against like peasants who didn't follow the party line and ideology, like the Shining Path in Peru. And then it's a tough situation too, because obviously U.S. propaganda does inflate the things that these organizations did. But there are a lot of like wild Maoist groups, and there are people like who wouldn't support China because they trade with the Philippines, where there's like a Maoist organization in the woods, and Maoists claim that China is not socialist because they need to support these Maoists in the woods. It's a bit ridiculous and dogmatic and idealistic, and I don't even think Mao himself would be a fan of these modern Maoists. But thank you for the super chat.
I just saw a video yesterday of some of these guys in the woods. They're always in the woods with like old AKs, and I admire the courage and the conviction to do something on the basis of their ideals. But for people to condemn China just because they don't support what seemed like a couple handful of guys with assault rifles, it's kind of idealistic. It's hoping for the world to work how it does, how you think it should in your head, and not how it actually works.
Right. I see this guy abolish NATO saying "Rest in peace, MAGA," and this is yet another splinter in MAGA. I have seen a lot of right wingers coming out against the intervention in Venezuela, like Jake Shields and others. Obviously, Nick Fuentes is supporting it, which is wild and should show you exactly where he stands literally supporting Israel's agenda in the Western Hemisphere, in Venezuela, in our own backyard, so to speak, to use the words of the Monroe Doctrine. So, but this is splintering a lot of MAGA people and splintering a lot of Fuentes' audience, even, which is great. You know, people need to see that he is a psyop or a wolf in sheep's clothing, or at least plays the same role as a Fed, even if he's not one. But this Gunther Eagleman fella, who's one of the like most stereotypical MAGA cultist type guys, he said, I was asked on a phone call my thoughts on Venezuela. My answer, plant our flag in the center of it. And literally, I just went to his page and searched foreign wars, and like 20 different posts came up of him condemning foreign wars when they're waged by Democrats. This one says November 2024 really is a vote for good. Democrats are the party of pedophilia, open borders, and foreign wars. I choose President Trump. Now President Trump's invading Venezuela, and he's cheering it on. Like, dude, this is like next level retardation. Like, when the liberals say that Trump supporters are a bunch of cultists, like, this is the people who that's actually true about. It's these people, these boomers like Gunther Eagleman, who have their heads so far up their own asses, they don't realize that they live in a decaying empire, or at least they only realize it when the Democrats are in power.
Bro, and it's the same the other way around. Do you think that any of the Democrats that just proposed the bill in order to prevent a military attack of Venezuela, you think if Biden or Kamala was doing this, you think any of them would take that position? You know, so it's this fake dialectic, this fake back and forth, spurious in nature between the two parties, and they're only anti-war and anti-quote-unquote establishment when it's the other party doing it. There's no actual principle. No one actually stands for anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the same on both sides. It's just easier to see when the Republicans are in office. You know, it's easier to see the Republican hypocrisy, and they kind of both take turns acting as controlled opposition. When the Republicans are in office, the Democrats pretend to be the anti-war party, and vice versa. But when they're in office, they're always pushing for the same bullshit. Thank you for the super chat, Lulu the Witch Boy, who was in Carlos's most recent class. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the class.
Yeah, it was very fun. It was our first class last Thursday. First time I'm teaching for the Institute since back in June. So that was fun. Thank you to all of you who signed up.
Yeah, what was this most recent class?
We just covered the sophist, and the seminar in general is about the history of ethics and moral philosophy from a Marxist perspective.
Nice. Near Pentagon, pizza activity is high, gay bar activity is low. Yes, we're actually going to talk about this next, but I desperately need a drink of water. Can you entertain these folks for like 2 minutes, Carlos?
Can I entertain? You want me to juggle? Yeah. Yeah,
you
of course.
Do whatever you want. You can lecture on philosophy and Hegel.
Guys, this is the only time that Eddie lets me lecture on philosophy. Before every stream, he gives me a big lecture about how I can't lecture on philosophy, except when he's like taking a piss or getting a glass of water. This is like the only slot that I'm allowed to talk about philosophy. No, I'm just joking. We'll talk a little bit more about this when Eddie comes back, but I keep thinking about my friends in Venezuela because it's a country that I've gone to. Are you not entertained? Yeah, Joey. That's the energy. It's a country I've gone to twice. I've made a tremendous amount of friends, especially in the youth part of the party, the J. PSUV, Juventud Partido Socialista Unido Venezuela. And it's scary. I can only imagine like what's going through their head. This massive empire has been threatening to invade for like 6 weeks now. Just put yourself at the level of just a regular like 21, 22-year-old that's busting their ass to help the more impoverished communities and serve the people and carry forth the Chavista process and the Chavista message, to have to really think about, picking up arms and dying to protect that revolution. Of course, it's what's expected of anyone that's a revolutionary. You should not get into this business if you don't have that mentality, that commitment, that willingness to sacrifice. But at a very existential level, this is the sort of stuff we read about in history books, and it's wild when you know the people, when you're friends with them, when you have memories of like drinking together and like having fun and talking it up just like you would any regular American. And the fact that now, they have to get into this headspace, this anxiety rooted headspace about potentially losing their lives or sacrificing God knows what. For what? The American people don't benefit. Structurally, it's impossible for the American working class to benefit because our interest is intimately tied to the Venezuelan people and to the Venezuelan working class. And I say that because someone mentioned in my comments, well, even if the American people benefited, they should still not support it. It's like, no, part of the Leninist understanding of the relationship of the working class and the imperial core to the global struggles of anti-imperialist countries is understanding there's no condition in which one benefits and the other one doesn't, where one is harmed and the other one isn't. Any invasion of Venezuela, even if they get the loot and they give it out in terms of handouts to the American working class, it would still be detrimental to the interests of the American working class. But at that basic, very real existential level of people, what must be going through their minds. It's pretty crazy. It's unlike anything I can say, that I've experienced in the last like however many years we've been in politics.
Yeah, I mean, America doesn't refer to the United States, technically, or at least if you're in Latin America. America is like this shared landmass of America and South America, and Central America. And, I made a post this week about how, as an American patriot, the Monroe Doctrine should embarrass you. The fact that, we have a slightly lesser developed landmass to the south and we just rob them and murder them and treat them like shit, when we could have mutually beneficial trade relations. And then Cuba and Venezuela absolutely embarrass us because they have better healthcare outcomes than us. Their governments do more for their people than us. They, outperform us in a lot of social metrics despite being under crippling economic sieges. So yeah, it should be embarrassing to any American. And as Carlos said, it's harmful to both sides of the Americas, the North and the South. Iowa Worker, thank you for the $2 super chat. Carlos, dictatorship of Midwestern Marx. Actually, we have this very wealthy donor named Ari Silverstein. And whenever we want to do a stream, we just text Ari, and he tells us what to say. We don't think for ourselves. I have an earpiece in right now, because that's how communism works. There is a secret cabal of Jewish people who are in a room in Tel Aviv, and they run all of the communist movements from that room, including ours. So shout out to Ari for that.
Shabbat Shalom, comrades.
Goldstein, yes. We love Ari. Yes, thank you, Ari. So someone was talking earlier about the pizzas. I don't know about the gay bar thing. That might have just been a joke. But there are actually an increase in demand for pizza shops near the Pentagon. So Jackson, I don't know if you looked this up or if you got this from somebody else, but if you look here, you'll see that the wait for pizza around the Pentagon is busier than usual or longer than usual. So the assumption here is that the fat ass politicians who run our government, and the shadow government known as the deep state, which includes the Pentagon, are ordering pizzas while they plot to carve up Venezuela and send young Americans to fight and die, which, perfect visual there. All these fat ass politicians like Randy Fine. I mean, he's not a Pentagon official, but guys like that are stuffing their faces with pizza while they send 18 and 19-year-old men to fight and die against 18 and 19-year-old men.
And do these guys not fucking know about like the fact that people follow this? They're looking at pizza spots and pizza orders consistently to see when it spikes. You would think at some point The guy that's like, let's get pizzas. We're working late tonight. When is that guy going to be fired? They got to get a guy that's like, let's get some kebabs or let's get some tacos to throw these fucking guys off so they don't realize, what we're doing. But this is part of, the veil. There's nothing behind the veil. Like, they're that stupid. Or it's a mechanism of distraction. They want us to think one thing so that they can do another, but I don't think that's going on here. I think it's genuinely, these people are idiots. They know we're on to them about the pizzas, and they're still going to order the pizzas and be like, fuck you.
It's the same thing with like the Google searches in Israel, where a lot of times when there are a mass shooting against Jewish people, like the name of the shooter has been Googled in Israel a week before. And I'm not saying, that means anything hard and fast, or it's not hard and fast proof of anything, but it's wild. And, it shows that these people are stupid enough to slip up and make these kinds of mistakes. Just like, actually, the best example of that was the leaked Signal chat from this year, where what were they planning? Strikes on Iran or something? And it leaked, and it just sounded like a regular group chat of a bunch of high schoolers. Like, nice job, team. Woohoo. LOL. GG's, Iran. They're just normal people running the empire. And a lot of times they're below average competence. Thin corporate slice and red cup of pib. That's probably the average order.
The order and the diet of an imperialist.
I know they get stuffed crust too. And lava cakes. Shit,
stuffed crust is gas, though.
It is so good, dude. That's why I get Pizza Hut instead of Domino's if I order pizza. I only order pizza like every once in a while if I'm really tired and feeling like I need a boost, but the stuffed crust is what I go for.
Our comrade Noah says that frozen pizza and those chain pizza spots don't count as pizza. The only places that count as pizza are like mom and pop pizza spots.
This is idealism.
Yeah. Like the ideal pizza joint versus the real.
So what else do we have here? Well, we had Karina Machado looking like a Dementor the other day. She took this weird picture where her soul is coming out of her body. Which, that lady's a hardcore Zionist. And these Fuentes people are calling to remove anti-Zionist government, a pro-Palestine government, in order to put in power a Zionist government. Yeah. And not only that, but Fuentes is a misogynist. He hates women. He doesn't think women should be in politics at all. He thinks their place is in the home. And yet he wants you to go fight and die in Venezuela to install some Zionist witch as their leader. I mean, the hypocrisy is unreal. Once you realize that Nick Fuentes is just like a very petty gay man, it all makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of articulate, so people think he's smart, but it's like, why is he continually going after Candace Owens when, that's hurting his credibility and people are tending to side with Candace? Well, he's a petty gay man who's mad that Candace is in his sphere and he has beef with her, so he has to try and tear her down. It's like catfighting shit. No pun intended with the cats, because Nick goes on dates with cat boys. But anyways, so back to Venezuela. Maduro said the truth has now been revealed. They aim to impose a public government that wouldn't even last 47 hours, which is a throwback to the coup that happened in 2002, where Hugo Chavez was ousted and the U.S. installed a puppet government, and it lasted exactly 47 hours before the Venezuelan people got out in the streets in such large numbers that the U.S. had to bring Chavez back, or they were going to have a full-blown revolt on their hands. That would hand over the constitution, sovereignty, and all the wealth and turn Venezuela into a colony. Of course, simply put, that is never, ever going to happen. Based. Let's listen. Probably in Spanish here, in Espanol, which is good. We got to practice our Spanish, all of us.
Y lo que ha sucedido el día de ayer y hoy, cuando el gobierno de los Estados Unidos dice que le pertenecen.
Oh, I should have played the other video first. Trump claimed that all of Venezuela's oil belongs to the U.S. and it was stolen by the Venezuelans. And this was Maduro's response.
A ellos. y que los venezolanos le robamos el petróleo. O sea, que el petróleo venezolano le pertenece a ellos. Que los minerales venezolanos, el oro y todos los minerales le pertenecen a ellos. Y lo que nunca habíamos escuchado, que las tierras de Venezuela le pertenecen a ellos y se lo tenemos que devolver de manera inmediata. Sencillamente, es una pretensión guerrerista y colonialista. Y lo hemos dicho bastante, y ya todo el mundo ve la verdad. La verdad ha sido develada. Se pretende en Venezuela un cambio de régimen.
And one of the things we've said about Trump from the beginning is that he rips the mask off of the U.S. empire. And like sometimes Trump's willingness to just say anything and be bold, can be genius, like when he was campaigning in 2015. And sometimes he can be an absolute moron. And him coming out and saying, we want the Venezuelan oil. Venezuela's resources belong to us. We want to install this, U.S. puppet government. Like openly saying this is mobilizing and galvanizing the Venezuelan people to fight. It's showing exactly what's going on here. They're not pretending to do some kind of humanitarian intervention for democracy and trying to get the Venezuelan people on their side. It's just pure warmongering. We're coming in to take the oil and to make you a colony. And that's going to unite the Venezuelan people across the political spectrum outside of the elite, the right-wing white bourgeoisie.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I've seen in the opposition which make the argument that it should be in their hands and their responsibility to overthrow quote-unquote Maduro's regime, that the U.S. shouldn't be getting involved and shouldn't be doing anything from outside, that should just be a basic acknowledgement of even the people that are against Maduro's government and against Chavismo. So that's a form of unity in the face of, this imperialist assault. Even the opposition, who can't ever agree on anything with the Chavistas, is coming out and saying, no, this is supporting this is a bit too far, because a bulk of the opposition is, of course, in the elite, primarily white neighborhoods. Not a lot of the Venezuelans look like Maria Corina Machado and her daughter. But a good chunk of them, which is like maybe 35-40% of the population of the non-Chavistas, they're also in poorer areas. The sort of areas that if there's a full-scale attack and war, you think U.S. Marines and U.S. soldiers are going to discriminate? You think U.S. bombs are going to discriminate between who in these neighborhoods is Chavista and who's opposition? Of course not. Everyone's up for getting equally bombed when it comes to that. I wanted to make a comment real quick about Trump's pronouncements, which of course is what Comrade Maduro here is replying to. This is going to be somewhat provocative, but there's a way in which he's right. And that way in which he's right is from the standpoint of bourgeois law. From the standpoint of bourgeois law, where the essence of it is the sanctity of private property, those companies, those American companies that had their control over the Venezuelan oil, over Venezuelan resources, and over Venezuelan land, nothing is more sacred to bourgeois law than that control of private property, that regime of private property. So all that Trump is doing is faithfully upholding that regime of bourgeois law, which says that I don't care if it's your country, because private property laws say that it is entitled to me, it's mine. And you nationalizing your lands, right, so that you can use those resources to uplift your people's living standards, that's actually a form of robbery from me. Under what conditions? The conditions of bourgeois law.
Absolutely. Private property is the most sacred ideal for these people, and they will defend it no matter how irrational and imperialistic it is. Thank you for the two, Abram, Rochelle. Chances that Fuentes is an actual Fed, I'd say very high. Thank you for the two.
Para imponer un gobierno títere que no duraría ni 47 horas, que llegue a entregarle la Constitución, la soberanía y todas las riquezas y convierta a Venezuela en una colonia. Sencillamente eso no va a pasar. Nunca, jamás. Never, never in the life. Venezuela será colonia de nada, de nadie, jamás.
He's channeling his inner Hugo Chavez and Fidel there, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's really coming into his own as a leader in this historical moment.
And he has for a while. You know, and this thing about bourgeois law is what really pisses me off about someone like Petro, who we were talking about just some days ago, because he's one of the few presidents that goes on Twitter and like debates Marxism, and has a very like second international understanding of Marxism in many areas. And then he turns around and starts yapping about human rights. Human rights. When have you ever heard the words uttered, violation of human rights, and it not come from an imperialist warmonger that is trying to promote regime change in a socialist and sovereign government? 9.9 times out of 10, that's the case. And this fucking idiot, Petro, is talking about Maduro's violations of human rights and violations of democracy. And when Maduro said, right after Trump said, look, after Venezuela, we're coming for Petro. Right after Venezuela, we're coming for Petro. And you know what this fucking dog says in Colombia? Instead of saying, you know, all right, let's unite, which is what Maduro said, let's form a Pan-American Union, because that's the only way to defeat the monster of the seven leagues, as Jose Marti called the U.S. empire. He says, no, I don't want a military unity. What we need is to promote more democracy, and you, Maduro, are a dictator because you violate bourgeois formalism and bourgeois law. It's the fuck you. Under bourgeois law, Trump and the United States is in all their right to take back their property in Venezuela. Because again, what's held as sanctimonious, what's held as the most valuable, is that right to private property. I wipe my ass with the right to private property. It's a bourgeois right. And it's something that is incompatible with any project of sovereignty and socialist construction.
Yeah, let me just play something too, now that you mention Petro going to a dictator. Because even from the standards of democracy, Venezuela is so much more democratic than any of the liberal democratic countries in the US or West Europe. It's actually unbelievable. So I did a video debunking this idea. So just think about this and how insane it is for Petro, from Colombia, this country that's basically, you know, occupied by US-backed terrorists and the US military, to be calling Maduro a dictatorship. What a pussy. Here, this will explain.
I'm going to explain to you the theory behind Venezuelan socialism so that you can understand how ridiculous it is when the US accuses them of authoritarianism. The Bolivarian Revolution, as it's called, has never been strictly Marxist-Leninist, and it's been critical of the Soviet model. They believe in a participatory democracy where power flows directly from the people themselves. And they've implemented this through their commune system, by example, where people live in these collective communities and govern themselves through communal councils. Additionally, Hugo Chavez created the Venezuelan National Assembly in 1999. And this was to dismantle the old corrupt multi-party system and allow regular people to participate in government. Now, does any of that sound like authoritarianism to you? They don't even believe in having a centrally planned economy. They look more favorably at worker-owned cooperatives and a mix of public and private firms. The main industry that they want to remain publicly owned is the oil, because for years it was siphoned out by Western companies. But under Chavez, it was reinvested in social programs for the people, building new houses, hospitals, schools, giving working people pensions for the first time. That's so authoritarian. He was forcing them to retire comfortably.
And maybe that's what Petro meant. You know, you, Maduro, are a dictator. You allowed all of these elderly oil workers to retire. You son of a bitch, bus driver, dictator. You know, gained power even though you were a working person, through your own merit. That's dictatorial. And one more point here in the video is the Venezuelan media, which is far more diverse than the US media, and like 70% of it is privately owned. What the Venezuelan government did was not ban all of the opposition media, but they just made their own media outlet so they could participate in the free marketplace of ideas, so to speak. And that outlet is Telesur, which is one of the best media outlets in the entire world that's actually run by the people, and actually run by socialists who care about fighting imperialism. So this idea that Maduro was authoritarian, well, half of Venezuela's problems are because he's not authoritarian enough, right? My only critiques of the PISA, of the Venezuelan Socialist Party, is that they haven't gone far enough in nationalizing more of that private property and cracking down on these scumfucks like Guaido and Corina Machado.
Can
By
you
the way,
imagine that?
go ahead.
Imagine a lady that's a powerful lady, because the recognition from the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, the backing of the United States and all that, which Guaido, besides the Nobel Peace Prize, Guaido also had. But these characters, these clowns arise, the backing of the most powerful empires on the planet, and they're calling for armed invasions of their country. They're literally calling for the country that is the most responsible for the ills of Venezuela to invade it. Maria Corina Machado asked Israel in the middle of a genocide to invade Venezuela, and to call the government that's allowing these traitors to continue walking the planet, period, but walking freely in Venezuela, coming in and out of the country freely, to call that country authoritarian is to expose yourself to the world that you have the highest levels of retardation. It's impossible to seriously sit there and talk about authoritarianism in a country that's letting the opposition walk freely. Even people who are traitors, who under US law and the law of any European liberal democracy would have been at the very least in jail. In some countries, there would have been a different form of justice that would have been put forth. But in Venezuela, not only do they get to walk freely, but when Guaido was getting fucking chairs thrown at him by the Venezuelan people that wanted to administer real justice on a character like that, what did the government do? Did the government police help the people throw chairs? No. They protected the fucking rat. So if there's something that we would comradely critique the Venezuelan government for, is for not being authoritarian enough. To then have a fucking idiot like Pedro come out and say that Maduro's a dictator and there needs to be more democracy. Get the fuck out of
here. All those people, by the way, are just grifting off NGO money. That's
yeah.
If you see these right-wing Venezuelans tweeting in favor of regime change, there one of them that I was roasting the other day, I ratioed him like 3 or 4 times in a row. He was tagging the Secretary of War in all of his tweets, like, notice me, the most pathetic shit, dude. Like, pay me money to support regime change in my own country. You are such a pathetic worm. But Venezuela is also flooded with NGOs. They're getting money from these NED-backed NGOs that Venezuela allows to just operate in their country, because they don't believe in shutting them down, because that would be authoritarian. So, yeah, if anything, Venezuela buys into that propaganda narrative about themselves too much.
Yeah.
I see somebody saying, I see some people saying Maduro's underrated. If only we had such leaders. It really is. Chavez and Maduro are like Trump if he was actually a Giga Chad and not a fat bourgeois spray-tanned McDonald's Adderall addict. They're like the smear against Chavez and Maduro from the elite in Venezuela has always been that they're like drunk, uneducated hicks who are too stupid and not high class enough to run the government, which is exactly how Hillary Clinton and the Democrats looked down on a lot of Trump voters in 2016, 2020, 2024. But the thing is that in office, Maduro and Chavez actually took huge strides to bust up the establishment, to drain the swamp, to bust up the multi-party system that was corrupt, and actually give the people democracy. The creation of the National Assembly in 1999 was huge. That would be like destroying the Republican and Democrat system and saying regular people get to run for office now, not people who are just tied and boosted by this party system that has all this money behind it, which we know is undemocratic. So they busted up the swamp. They drained the swamp the way that Trump promised to. So they are everything Trump wishes he could be. Solidarity, and thank y'all for speaking the truth in these deceptive times. You bet, brother. Thank you so much for the 10. Appreciate your support always, and we will keep going. You know it. This was a good tweet. I've been pretty angry with and like all these right wingers who pretended to be anti-war who are now cheering this on. Like, it is kind of pissing me off because I've spent 8 years of my life, 9 years of my life studying Venezuela fairly intensively. It was one of the studying Venezuela and the Bolivarian Revolution is partially what inspired me to become a socialist in the first place. And watching all these clowns who pretended to be anti-establishment, pretended to be anti-war, now calling for another regime change, falling for the Iraq War 2.0 or Vietnam 2.0 is just pathetic. And I think you people who are doing that are such bitches and such cucks and such morons who are too arrogant and egotistical to realize how much of an embarrassing retard you are, leading our country into decay and collapse. And I honestly think it's time for tough love with the MAGA people who are supporting imperialism. I don't think now is the time to, it is time to find unity with those of them who are criticizing the war and saying no more wars. But for those who are cheering it on, it's time to be like, listen up, bitch. You promised us no more wars. You're not going to go fight. Why are you sending 18-year-olds and my former wrestling teammates to get blown up in Venezuela? Fuck you. That's the messaging I think we need now. Partially because Trump is making idiotic statements like this, and they need to be called out for what they are. People aren't dumb. They don't need to be coddled right now. They need to be told how genuinely stupid this is.
Oh, I think you have the thing muted.
Oh, yeah, I muted it earlier. My bad. Here we go.
Just a blockade. Not going to let anybody going through that shouldn't be going through. You remember they took all of our energy rights. They took all of our oil from not that long ago, and we want it back. But they took it. They illegally took it.
They illegally took it. Well, how did you get it in the first place, Trump? How did you get it in the first place? Through plunder and warfare and colonization and the installation of puppet governments. The same shit you're doing now. And that is robbery and that is theft. And that is the secret of primitive accumulation and this bourgeois right to private property, is that this private property that they consider to be so sacred was gained through theft and plunder and the enclosure of the common lands that the people owned and worked in common together. That's how capitalist society and private property spread its way across the earth, is through mass murder and genocide and theft. But Venezuela's doing something illegal for taking control of their own oil so that it can be used by their own people.
And you know what we're seeing here is a discourse shift. I hope people are noticing it's a discourse shift, because the whole time the discourse has been national security threat, drug smuggling, and to embellish it a little bit, we'll throw in that he's an authoritarian, he stole the election, yada, yada, yada. But now for the first time, I think ever, we have heard a statement such as this, which is that actually the oil in Venezuela is ours, and they took our oil, and therefore we're going to take it back, which forces you to realize, all right, maybe they came to notice that everyone knows it's about oil. So now that everyone knows it's about oil, what can they do? What can they do? Can they just say brazenly, yeah, you caught us, it's about oil. We want their oil so that the oil companies that this government represents gets even richer? No, they have to spin it somehow, always as a just quest, And the way to do that is by saying, yeah. The way to do that is by saying, it was our oil first, and then they took it from us. And the question is, well, what was it before? Whose land is the oil on? What actual rights do you have to that oil? How did that come about?
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like old school British imperialism. Like they're about to start using race science. They're gonna be like, well, these people are uncivilized because they're brown. We need to go in there. We need to have Christian missionaries bring them Christianity. Like it's as the mask falls off the U.S. empire, we're getting much less like Susan Power Obama, humanitarian imperialism, and much more naked imperialism. And I'd say,
Yeah.
if you want to know the epitome of that humanitarian imperialism, read Susan Powers' book. She was the head of USAID under Biden and the one who really spearheaded the war in Libya alongside Hillary Clinton under the Obama administration. She wrote some book called like The Problem of Genocide, and it was about how all these countries who are US enemy states are doing genocide, so we need to get more involved to protect human rights around the world. That was the Obama era strategy, and now under Trump it's shifting. It's like, we need that oil, we're big and badass, we're tough, we have testosterone, the oil is ours, we're
Well, that was
retarded proud, basically.
that's part of the shift away from neoconservatism. People have tended to accept the idea that neoconservatism is any bellicosity in general. Neoconservatism is a way of defending bellicosity through this humanitarian veil. That's why, I mean, there's a direct line from Trotskyism to neoconservatism, because that strategy you just laid out of all of these countries that are our enemies are doing genocide, and we have to go out there and carry out these wars to prevent these genocides and defend human rights and promote freedom, promote democracy. Guys, that's permanent revolution. That's permanent revolution of the imperialist bourgeoisie. And what we have now is no longer that apparatus being used as the dominant ideological form through which these conquests are legitimized. Now we have something a little bit more brazen. And I think that's part of why racism is making a comeback. You did a video reacting to this lady who was reacting to a video of a congressperson, I think, in Minneapolis, who was eating a Somali dish. I don't know if you know which TikTok of yours I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But so brazenly racist, like even someone else's food has to be reduced to the level of disgust and lesser than. We have to remember, what is racism? Racism isn't saying a certain word in the context of a joke. Racism isn't jokes. Racism is an ontological affirmation of someone else's inferiority, of another group's inferiority. That's how MLK defined racism. That's the understanding of racism that I accept. When you think another group is fundamentally inferior, and you pick out something so stupid such as food, which I'm sure was delicious, and you say this is inferior, it's actually discussing this, that's an ontological affirmation. This group is less than. This group is less than us, and therefore we can do whatever we want to do to them because they're less than. And that spread, that I would admit, I think it's spreading a lot more quicker within the Republican Party than within the Democrats. That doesn't mean the Democrats are good or anything, but the Republicans are being a hell of a lot more brazenly and explicitly racist. And it might be a different, it might be creating the conditions so that this new form of legitimizing conquest can make a return.
Yeah, look at this stupid shit.
You guys have all seen the video of Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey trying Somalian food, and the guy looks like he is not enjoying it. Does not look like a good time. It looks actually awful.
It looks like he's
so
kind
we
of enjoying
decided,
it.
why not try it for ourselves?
Okay.
Is Somalian food as bad as Jacob Frey makes it look?
Guess
My
we'll find
producers brought me this lovely bag of.
Thanks.
It's already leaking. This lovely bag
It's
of.
called flavor.
I don't even know what this
It's
is.
actually seasonal food.
I guess we're gonna try it.
Go ahead.
It doesn't smell great, guys. All right.
I've been to a Somali restaurant.
And-
It smells awesome.
Oh God. What is this? It's rather pungent.
It's called fufu. And it's actually West African food. That's not even Somali. What do you mean, what is this? Why are you turning up your nose at it like a baby? It's meat and like a rice-type mixture and beads. You ever had a burrito? You dumb
Do I mix
stupid
it?
idiot. Hey, you're supposed to take the fufu and use it to scoop up the flavorful goodness and the meat and the beans. You don't even know how to eat it, you stupid lady.
What's the thing?
It's good. I had it the other day in Milwaukee. It's so good. What do you only eat McDonald's?
Let me try this.
The fact that she thought this
No.
video made her look good,
No.
like you look like a child.
No.
It's just so weird. It's so embarrassing for her. Like, for years, the meme had been like, white people don't know how to season their food. And now they're like, mocking these other countries for having seasoned food. I mean, I've had that food. I had it in Milwaukee, like I said in the video the other day. It was gas. And racism is the stupidest shit, man, as Iowa workers said. Like, to be actually racist, you really gotta be another kind of dumb.
Mhm.
Not to say there isn't like truth to some stereotypes about certain groups of people, who live together and form a common culture, like, of course. But to believe that, one group of humans is superior. We're all retarded, bro. We're all animals. We're all humans just trying to get by and feed ourselves. We all have very similar desires, extremely similar basic human needs. Like, we're all just humans. And once you hang out with people from every racial group, you realize there's smart people and dumbasses and people who are smart in some areas and dumb in others, and every single one of them.
Did you
But
see
yeah,
the viral tweet from a Malay follower in Argentina that he showed a video of a taco street food stand in Mexico, and he's like, Mexicans are the Indians of the Western Hemisphere, and the tweet went mega viral because the tacos looked delicious. You couldn't watch the video without getting hungry, and everyone was just fucking dogging on him. But yeah, that form of like neo-racism is spreading, and it's so stupid. It's
yeah,
especially stupid now that we went through a phase for decades where everyone kind of understood, okay, this racism stuff was stupid. Um, it's especially stupid now. And I tried Indian food for the first time ever the other day, chicken tikka masala and some duck.
dude, I love Indian food.
I gotta say, I wasn't familiar with their game. It's top notch.
Yeah.
Top notch. All right.
Hobbs was giving me shit that one day when I was eating curry. I'm like, dude, it's gas. it's
It's so
it's my
good.
cousin's favorite food, actually.
And with the naan, I kept on calling it nam, like Vietnam to the guy. He's like, he just started calling it nam back. So, but it was amazing. It was amazing. It's gonna be my new thing from now on.
Yeah, it's so good. But that kind of deterioration of America and the stupidity and idiocracy and sort of embarrassing nature of our government at this point is why I tweeted this on my way home from practice today. I forgot to read this earlier. Like it or not, this is the epitome of what our country has become. A fat, spray-tanned idiot sending young Americans to die for oil with a justification that only the most ignorant of morons would believe. And he will remain in his ivory tower stuffing down burgers while 18-year-olds bleed in the jungles of Venezuela. This is 2025 America, and if you don't want a revolution, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, that's what another viral video I had back in the day was me saying, how can you not be a Marxist? Like, people treat me like I'm crazy for being a Marxist. How can you look at our system, this fat, spray-tanned, consumeristic, disgusting, 3 wives having, McDonald's loving epitome of everything wrong with America, sending young people to fight and die in war? How can you look at this and be like, yeah, this is okay. We don't need to revolt against this. Like, dude, we should have revolted yesterday. The founding fathers would look at this and freaking send Trump to the gulags. They would be disgusted. Well, some of them would be. Thomas Paine would be, at least. But yeah, you're insane and brainwashed and MK Ultra brained and fluoride brained. Your pineal gland is completely frozen by tap water. If you don't think we need a revolution, like, you are just fucked in the head. This is such a disgusting and embarrassing system that any American patriot should be demanding an end to. And I'm glad to see so many young Americans turning on Trump. But now, there's still this like sense of postmodernism with young people where they don't want to take anything seriously, right? They're starting to catch on to what's going on, but they don't want to actually take the time to learn, because then they would have to be serious and sit down and study. It's easier to just joke and laugh and watch Nick Fuentes videos and blame everything on the Jews and post memes. But what the hell is that going to do? You got to get serious. You got to take a step forward, young people, if you actually want things to change and if you actually care about your children and the country that they will inherit. So you got to study a little bit, you got to read, and you got to move past posting memes about Israel. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah, and it comes from the nihilism that they understand that within the system, nothing is changeable. And what they don't recognize is that not all forms of organizing or of fighting for change have to occur within the system. You can organize your communities and begin to build the ship for when the storm hits, because the storm is going to hit whether you like it or not. And that's part of what our party's doing. It's trying to build that ship, that basic infrastructure, so that when everything goes to shit, we're still afloat and we're able to provide a program that unites the nation in the midst of collapse and balkanization and just warlordism that's going to occur after the constitutional crisis. So
yes. I see someone saying it's so annoying when talking politics with my friends, and I know Iowa Worker's a young guy. Yeah, you just got to learn and educate yourself so that you can body your friends, and win over the ones that you can win over. But I have one friend who the other day was talking about all the Muslims moving into America. I'm like, he's a teacher. I'm like, how many Muslims were in your class last year? He's like, well, none. He was drunk, so it wasn't fair. But like, well, none. I'm like, so what are we scared of then? I'm like, do you not realize that it's not Fox News. He's brainwashed by Joe Rogan. That's how they get the younger generation. But then later in the night, he was completely obliterated. And I told him that Trump just passed a law that says all immigrants are welcome to come to America so long as they're Muslim. And he started freaking out. And he's like, I'm like, what? Don't you support Trump? Trump passed that law. Why are you turning on Trump? He's like, I just can't believe he passed that. And I'm like, buddy, you better start learning the Muslim call to prayer, because you're going to have to do it before 6th period every day next year.
MashaAllah.
You're going to have to get prayer rugs in your classroom because all your kids are going to be Muslim. They're coming to Iowa. No, you gotta learn to troll them and be normal. But also show them how retarded their politics are, because they'll try to, treat you like you're the crazy commie. Like, oh yeah, I'm the crazy one because I don't want to send 18-year-olds to die for oil in Venezuela. Why don't you go fight if I'm so crazy for not wanting to do that? Stuff like that.
You know what I've really appreciated? The whole Minnesota was promised to Somalis.
That was so good. Exactly how you deal with it.
Brilliant marketing. The one guy that was on a plane saying, I'm coming for my birthright trip.
There was one guy who was like really quick with it, and he kept responding to these angry right-wingers. How can you possibly say that Somalia has promised you in the Bible? We have a covenant with God. He was just like nonstop. You wouldn't understand. You're not one of the chosen ones. You're Goyim. It's so good.
America's like a fucking sitcom at this point. It's all just so fucking stupid. You said something earlier that was really, it made me think, which is that who's actually going to buy this new excuse? Because before, I get it, a good number of Americans can't tell Venezuela from Colombia or Mexico. All of us South American, Latino-looking brownies are just Mexican to them. And, I can get if they're like the whole drug thing, they're bringing drugs. Okay, I can get a very ignorant American who can't tell the difference between different Hispanic people and different countries, Okay, maybe Venezuela, it's one of them, right? But even those people, if you tell them they took our oil, it's they would ask, like, was they in Texas at some point? Did the Venezuelans come to Texas and take the oil from Texas back to Venezuela? Is that what happened? And then Trump's like, no, our oil in Venezuela. And then they have to be puzzled. Like, that doesn't, even to them, it wouldn't make any fucking sense. So who is going to accept this narrative? It's our oil that was in Venezuela that the Venezuelans took from us. What the fuck?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Some people are pretty stupid. A lot of people are paid shills, though, too. You got to keep that in mind. Social media isn't a fully, isn't a a great gauge of where people are at.
That's who Billy Currington, the wise Maoist Red Guard, Billy Currington. That's what he was talking about. And he wrote that great Cultural Revolution anthem, People Are Crazy.
Let's see, we got Comrade Rathbone here too. Not enough people are talking about how batshit insane it is that our president is claiming Venezuela stole Venezuelan land from the United States, and now the U.S. wants it back. Exactly what Carlos was just saying there. Like, who's buying this shit? I gotta retweet this. That's good. Let's see what Trump said here. I read this one already. Venezuela is completely surrounded by the largest armada ever assembled in the history of South America. It will only get bigger, and the shock to them will be like nothing they have ever seen before. Until such times as they return to the United States of America, all of the oil, land, and other assets that they previously stole from us. The illegitimate Maduro regime is using the oil from these stolen oil fields to finance themselves. Drug terrorism, human trafficking, murder, and kidnapping. Actually, social programs, pensions for workers, building of new schools, housing programs, and social metrics in Venezuela after the oil was reinvested in these things and taken out of the hands of Western shareholders went way up. Malnutrition decreased, literacy rates increased, life expectancy increased, homelessness decreased. Every single social metric and standard of working people's, day-to-day lives and well-being went up. So
curable blindness. What? Curable blindness got completely abolished.
Yeah.
People forget about that.
And so Mr. Beast didn't have to go to Venezuela and cure everyone's blindness like he did for Africa or whatever.
And give them an ethical chocolate. The best chocolate in the world because there's no child labor.
And it's always projection too, because what has the CIA and the DEA and the NED promoted all across the world? Human trafficking, drug smuggling, terrorism. I mean, Trump was Epstein's buddy, and he's out here calling Maduro a human trafficker. You know who's not on Epstein's list? Nicolas Maduro and Hugo Chavez, you orange pedophile. For the theft of our assets and many other reasons, including terrorism, drug smuggling, and human trafficking. He repeats that for some reason because he's probably on meth when he was writing this and just going crazy. Regime has been designated a foreign terrorist organization. Oh yeah, he was on lots of Adderall when he wrote this one. He was like doing the Hitler rock. Have you seen that video of Hitler at the Olympics on meth when he's like this? That's Trump writing this tweet. Therefore, today I'm ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers going into and out of Venezuela. There basically was already. The illegal, other than they were selling some oil to the U.S., which I'm sure will now halt. The illegal aliens and criminals that the Maduro regime has sent to the United States during the weekend and that Biden administration are being returned to Venezuela at a rapid pace. America will not allow criminals, terrorists, or their countries to operate and harm our nation, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just wait and see. Once you invade Venezuela, how many Venezuelan refugees we have here in America, bud. Just wait and see.
And those illegal aliens are 90% of them are Trumpers.
Yep. They're right-wing Venezuelans who don't like socialism.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. One of the things that that I've noticed is that a lot of the targeted groups that are being deported, especially in a very spectacle-like manner, are communities that are extremely anti-communist and pro-Trump. So it's like, it's just the stupidest thing, you can possibly imagine. To deport Venezuelans and Cubans as they're doing, it's like, what? That's so dumb. These people literally are like, they revere you religiously. And you're going to deport them, whatever,
There's not a real understanding of the politics of a lot of these immigrant groups. And actually, if you say that you're fleeing a communist country like Cuba or Venezuela, you're more likely to get in too. There's a documentary published recently by Flow Wrestling, which is the biggest wrestling media company. And it was about Anthony Echemendia, who was a Cuban defector and came to America and wrestled in college when he was probably like 28 because nobody knew how old he was. But his story, and they told it on this Flow Wrestling documentary. He was 17, and the Cuban national team was wrestling in Honduras or Guatemala, and he just left. They were at the airport, and he just walked out away and into the streets of Honduras with like some cash in his pocket. And then his parents were able to arrange a flight to the U.S. and the U.S. just let him in. It's like, why would they let a 17-year-old like flee his family and flee his country and flee the Cuban national wrestling team that he was a part of? He's 17. He's a minor. Wouldn't you transport him back? But because he was from a communist country, because he was in exile of a country that the U.S. Doesn't like, they let him come. So then, they let these people in because they're fleeing communism, and then blame them for all of our problems that are actually caused by capitalism, and then deport them. So great job, Cuban and Venezuelan right-wing exiles, I guess.
They deported the people in Miami that made the "Y voy a votar por Donald Trump." They made this anthem, this Miami anthem of voting for Trump. I don't know if you want to look it up. Y voy a votar por Donald Trump. Those guys were deported.
No way.
In a very perverse way, it's kind of based. But
it's like Batista's granddaughter being homeless in Fort Lauderdale as like an 8-year-old woman. It's like, man, that's really tragic. But at the same time, the former Cuban dictator who fled communism is homeless under capitalism. Holy shit, you can't write
we gotta start getting all these gusanos that are like super anti-communist and just calling ICE on a joke, guys. A joke.
It's a joke about everyone except that Seabass guy. He's got to be deported, dude. I don't give a shit. I'll call any organization on that guy. I don't care who does it. Get rid of him. Not in my country. I don't even care if he was born here, dude. Send him back.
And his food smells.
We have to get the Houthis out of Venezuela. This is true. Yes, Yemen's in Venezuela. Iran is in Venezuela. China's in Venezuela. Stalin is in Venezuela, backing the Houthis. So, yeah, we desperately need to go in. Let's see this song here. Is this it?
With your help, your devotion, and your drive, we are going to keep on fighting. And together, we will make America great again. Ay, 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 ay,
Ay, por Dios. Voy a votar por Donald Trump. Ay, 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 por Dios. Yo voy a votar. Deportation! Go back to Cuba, my friend. Bye-bye.
No me quede en la casa, así que tú no me falles. Oye, sale a votar, vota con los 3 de La Habana. Mano para arriba la gente, ciudadana americana. Ay, ay, ay,
All my family voted Trump and now facing deportation. Humans in Florida feel they have been used. You played yourself. You made a whole song for the man just to get deported.
Bro, you know how foolish they look showing back up in Cuba? After dropping the most pro-Trump Gusano banger and getting deported.
Do we still get free housing? I still have a house and a healthcare card. Oh man, that's too funny. I mean,
that might be the only good thing. Deport these people. That's like when Khrushchev sent Yeltsin to an insane asylum. That was the one good thing he did. Not Khrushchev, Gorbachev. Excuse me.
Very true. Gusano chart topper. Oh yeah, that is you played yourself all time. You played yourself moment all time.
Oh man, there's so many DJ Khaled banger sayings that, unfortunately.
Fortunately, he's a fat sellout. We got one more here. The Venezuelan defense minister said the people of the U.S. must understand that their government is an instrument of war, and once again, they intend to send young Americans back to their homes in black body bags, in coffins. So a threat, in a way, but also, telling the truth, saying that this war is not to the benefit of the American people either, which is something that Venezuela, as well as all sorts of other foreign socialist countries, have always said, that the American people need to rise up and free themselves because they're also being occupied by this government. So, and obviously that's a battle that we fought against the anti-patriotic nihilist left for many years, who didn't believe that socialism was possible in America. But that's what other countries want us to do, is rise up and fight. DJ Khaled's the only fat Palestinian. Yes, that was Dave Chappelle. Thank you, comrade. You want to listen to this guy?
Yeah, let's do it.
En rebeldía contra la acción nefasta, oprobiosa del imperialismo norteamericano, que nos quiere someter, como ya he dicho, a base de mentiras. Es el accionar, Celone, es el accionar histórico del imperialismo norteamericano. Bajo mentiras invadieron a Yugoslavia. Bajo mentiras invadieron a Irak.
I love how the Venezuelan people have always stood with Yugoslavia. Sorry. Because a lot of Western leftists still get tripped up on Yugoslavia, and they don't realize how much of a disgusting NATO-backed regime change effort it was to sow ethno-nationalism and replace class struggle with ethnic struggle, and bombed their people and bombed their factories and bombed the communists. But it was Telesur, I believe, who originally dug through this is only people who know Yugoslavia kind of closely are going to know what I'm talking about here, but they dug through the International Criminal Tribunal on Yugoslavia documents to find out that they themselves said that Milosevic could not be convicted of genocide, that there was not enough evidence to convict him, but it was buried under legal literature so that nobody could find it, because the U.S. narrative has always been that Milosevic orchestrated a genocide. And yet this U.S. kangaroo court, the ICTY, basically exonerated him, which the Venezuelan media apparatus, I believe, were the first ones to expose. So, sorry, total random tangent. But I love that.
No, Eddie. But once you go to former Yugoslavia, you won't stop wanting to beat Michael Parenti up with your bare hands.
Someone should beat James Ray up with their bare hands. I'm sorry.
That's the
stupidest. I tried to be friendly to that guy for many years, but what the fuck was that post?
Top tier retardation.
Next level. Yeah, this is how the Venezuelan socialists feel about Yugoslavia, James. Go ahead and tell them how it was good, though, and how U.S. bombs stopped the genocide.
Bajo mentiras agredieron a Libia. Bajo mentiras agredieron a Siria, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. Qué prontuario de accionar del imperialismo norteamericano, siempre con mentiras. Entonces el pueblo de los Estados Unidos debe entender que su gobierno es un instrumento para la guerra. Se quiere y se pretende ahora aquí, en este hemisferio, no estamos hablando de allá, del Medio Oriente, en la Europa del Este, no estamos allá hablando del otro lado del mundo, estamos hablando de este hemisferio occidental. Se pretende hacer una guerra en Latinoamérica y en el Caribe. Y se pretende, queridos hermanos del pueblo de los Estados Unidos, hermanos y hermanas del pueblo de los Estados Unidos, a quienes admiramos profundamente, se pretende nuevamente devolver en sacos.
In the U.S., this is the best part, obviously. And the U.S. is building up military and naval armaments in the Caribbean, but let's not forget that they've always been there. The U.S. has been increasing military presence in the Caribbean for years, and that's how they enforce the blockades on Cuba and Venezuela, by just doing an old-fashioned siege and not letting any trade in or out.
En bolsas negras y en urnas a ciudadanos, contribuyentes, jóvenes de la sociedad norteamericana de vuelta a sus casas. Así que el pueblo de los Estados Unidos debe escuchar el clamor de paz, de sindérices, de resolver, la necesidad de resolver los conflictos a través del diálogo, de la política, y no a través de la guerra. Lamentablemente, el supremacismo se ha apoderado de esta administración actual de los Estados Unidos. Sin embargo, estamos hoy más unidos que nunca.
Exactly what we were saying earlier is that this is actually uniting the Venezuelan people, even those who may be more right-wing.
Porque sabemos de dónde viene la agresión. La agresión no viene desde adentro, no viene del gobierno bolivariano. La agresión viene desde los centros de poder del imperialismo norteamericano y toda esa pléyade de sicarios y de lacayos internos que se prestan al juego.
That guy's based. I don't know exactly who he is, but I'm sure he's loyal to the Bolivarian Revolution, which people who are loyal to the country have been promoted in their military for years, while people who want to sabotage it have been purged, which is very good and gives them a much better chance of winning this coming war. So yeah, shout out to that guy.
And that's the right messaging they have to carry out. You know, the American people don't want this war. It's like 70-something% of them are against it. That means bipartisan disagreements with this war. And so you ask yourself, what type of society has almost 80% of their people be against the war? And then now the bill that was passed to prevent Trump's military aggression on Venezuela, it failed to pass. So how does 80% of the people stand against the war, but very explicitly the lawmakers, the people that are supposed to represent the people, in the vote that they have the opportunity to enforce the people's will, enforce the opposite? How many more signs do you need in order to realize the last thing we fucking got in this country is a democracy? Here in this country, the interest that governs is that of big capital. It's the interest of the people that are going to profit. The only ones that are going to profit from invading Venezuela. The class of people who will never have their sons lace up their boots to go invade, because it's not their kids who go to these wars. It's the kids of the poor and the workers who are sent off to come back in those black body bags, as the defense minister or whatever in Venezuela just said. It's not the kids of the rich. It's not the kids of those that are the very, very small percentage of the population who are going to benefit from this because they're going to profit from it. It's the kids of the poor.
You know what's funny is that, and this is a little bit of a different sect of people who are supporting this, but like Nick Fuentes is supporting the war in Venezuela and openly saying that we need to do it in order to take their oil. But I thought all of America's oil was owned by the Jews, who also control the government. But you support the government and the oil oligarchs installing a Zionist dictatorship to steal another country's oil? Like, doesn't make sense here, buddy. You're the math isn't math in here. So yeah, you got to be a complete idiot to be in support of this, and that's why most of the American people aren't, because instinctually they know that it's wrong. Must be anti-embargo now that she's in Cuba. Probably. Thank you for a super chat. Thank you, Barrio, for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate you, comrade. Enjoy the perks that come with that. Check out Carlos's books, which you should have access to those PDFs now. Very good. Thank you for your support. $20 super sticker from JR Shield. Thank you, comrade. Appreciate that. And you're a YouTube member, so we appreciate your continued support of our project here. $20 is a very generous donation, so thank you very much. Corvid Conquest, longtime YouTube member, over a year now, I believe, plus a consistent super chatter. Thank you very much, Corvid. Another new member, let's go. Versage, love seeing that. Check out the perks that come with your YouTube membership. Hope you enjoy them. And Lennon Dubois, longtime supporter, also gifted a Midwestern Marks membership. So shout out to whoever gets that. I hope you enjoy the perks. And thank you all for your support. Obviously, you can support us through these super chats and YouTube memberships, as well as our Patreon, patreon.com/MidwesternMarks. Everything I said earlier about the benevolent Jewish donor who gives us money was a lie. All of our money comes from you, the audience, whether you're Jewish or not. We appreciate all of those donations.
So there's no Silverstein funding?
No, sorry. Did I trick you with that one? Did you think we were like going to be balling? Yeah, sorry.
I keep getting all these wonderful gifts in the mail. I thought they were funded by Silverstein.
Should we show everyone what I got you?
No, there's no way. I don't think it's allowed on air, period. YouTube would ban us instantaneously.
I'm surprised I even got
Rumble would ban us.
Yeah, Rumble would ban us for that one. And be a younger. Maybe one day. Maybe when we have when we're uploading on Rumble, we'll show the shirt that I got Carlos for Christmas.
We'll wear it for the next party podcast.
Yes. I have the coolest gift for you too from this old Soviet store in
I keep waiting for that gift. You tell me you're sending me something every time I open it. It's the most out of pocket shit. I'm waiting for Lenin. And I keep getting the craziest shit. But don't worry. There's something coming your way too.
Sweet. I can't wait. Yeah, anytime I see something ridiculous on the TikTok shop, I just like ship it to Carlos' house. Like, yep, he needs this.
Have you guys seen the video, the clip of Caleb Presley and Theo Vaughn? They're doing a podcast, and Caleb's like, dude, I just keep getting these shipments of your old shirts that don't fit, and they're like 3 sizes too small. Stop sending me your old shirt. That's whenever he sees a retarded shirt on TikTok, he's like, oh, I got this. I know who to send this to.
It's so true.
And it's all funded by Larry Silverstein.
Yup. He gave me the thumbs up on that.
Oh, man.
We have one more story. In Chile, the fascist won the presidential election over the Lib Communist Party. So yeah, a lot of right-wingers in Latin America now, sort of a counter-revolutionary wave to the pink wave that we saw over the last decade. So yeah, I don't know much about it, but maybe you have something to say on that.
Yeah, it's well, there's this pendulum, which is the pendulum of the limited progressive capitalism or social democracy within the confines of a bourgeois state structure, where it'll go left, and before there's any meaningful time to do anything big, it'll go right again, and that's just the pendulum. And Chile, just came from one of these progressive capitalist governments with Boric, and now it literally swung towards a guy, José Antonio Cast, who his father was literally a Nazi. He has said in various podcasts, some people say it's a Freudian slip, whatever, that his his hero was Adolf Hitler. So a literal fucking Nazi. And then the alternative was this candidate from the Communist Party, which, I mean, is very little different in terms of their contemporary politics from Boric. It would have just been the same, like, woke identity politics style, social democratic left. What I think it's positive from Chile is that a candidate that I got to know personally in Venezuela and had a good few days with, Eduardo Artes, He's from the actual Communist Party, the only real Communist Party over there in Chile. He gained a lot of attention in this electoral cycle. He became almost like the meme of like the cool old guy amongst the youth. And I think that's very, very positive, and hopefully that, you know, develops the party. They can start getting seats locally and continue doing these presidential runs without this, because he's getting a whole lot of popularity. But yeah, we'll see what happens in Chile. It seems like Pinochetism is back.
Yeah, which is tragic. But I mean, someone said it was supposed to be another pink wave, but it failed. I mean, and not to toot our own horn, but just to show the effectiveness of Marxist-Leninist analysis, even beyond social democratic analysis. We kind of called this in an article that we wrote together, like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago now, where we made two main points: that they needed to take control of the state apparatus. They needed to establish dictatorships of the proletariat and get rid of these bourgeois, parliamentary, fake democratic institutions and build real democratic institutions, like what Venezuela has actually started doing quite effectively. And then we said that the surplus, more of the social surplus, the economic surplus, needs to be invested in the people. And this is where Venezuela actually could do more, because a lot of their economy is still privately owned. More of that surplus needs to be invested, you know, which is a socialist position versus a social democratic position. You need land redistribution in order to secure the support of the peasants and the agricultural workers. You need to consolidate your gains by investing in the people and improving their day-to-day lives so that they support you, like what China has done, which is why the party has like 90% support in China. So a lot of these governments, although they did great things, like in Bolivia, they failed to do that. They failed to maintain party unity within their own parties. They failed to really push to revolutionize the system, and left themselves open to sabotage and U.S.-backed candidates, you know, retaking control and counter-revolutionary efforts, and that's what we've seen.
And it's very sad, because at least in the case of Bolivia and Honduras, Bolivia more so because they had been in power for 20 years, but they're able to do great things for the working class and the peasantry and the indigenous, which form almost like a class of their own because of how that society is structured. But also in Honduras, because the government of Manuel Zelaya was doing great things before it was overthrown by the United States, and basically a narco dictatorship was put in its place, destroyed the country. Honduras was the country with the highest crime rates, and it dropped tremendously now with the recent left-wing president. And you know, it's at some level, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with the people? Like, you have a government that's literally there to represent you, and they might not be doing things fast enough. But how can you not tell the difference between the people that are trying to help and improve your condition and the people that are just like there to represent very brazenly and openly the interests of foreign multinationals? But it is what it is. This life is hard.
Part of the reason is because of guys like this.
Yeah.
Because this is what the representation for socialism was in Chile. This neoliberal jackass, like basically a male member of the squad, except even more liberal than AOC and more pro-regime change when it came to Nicaragua and Venezuela. And this was Chile's president, who called himself a socialist and didn't do shit for the people. Didn't do any of the things that we were just talking about, like building new democratic institutions. He didn't even fight back against imperialist narratives in Latin America and talk about U.S. interventionism at all. So this is the problem, is that the Communist Party that our buddy Red Chilean is part of is not leading the Chilean left right now. And PMC idiot woke leftists like Gabriel Boric, similar to the situation in America. So I think that's the main problem. I mean, look at this pose, bro. What are you doing? That is the most feminine posture. I'm just saying. But that's
with Xiomara Castro and with Evo and Mas, that wasn't the case.
Right.
And
correct.
You know, It's a real tragedy. I heard some people say that there was electoral fraud backed up by the U.S. in Honduras. I don't know how true that is, but fuck, man, you know what it is to just let the beginning of a process of actual progress.
Sorry.
Oh my God. It's accurate. It's impressive.
Sorry,
how
finish your point. I was invested.
It's sad to see a process that was beginning to rebuild Honduras to go by the wayside so soon.
It is. Man, I just can't believe we were excited about Boric we weren't that excited, but we're like, oh, this is a positive development. He just became such a sellout.
We were in the Vijay Prashad human rights, Gandhi socialism sphere of influence, and that's what happened.
Yeah, speaking of Vijay Prashad, who gave Zoran Mamdani a big congratulations when he won, Zoran has not said shit. He hasn't made one post against regime change in Venezuela. And I know he's the mayor of New York. He's focusing on New Yorkers. But at least make a tweet saying we should focus here at home, not on invading Venezuela. If you're, one of the would-be leaders of the American Socialist movement, or viewed as one of the leaders, he's not, but people view him that way, and he can't even make one tweet against brazen imperialist warfare that will send New Yorkers to die in the jungle.
So, even AOC has spoken against it. That's crazy.
He's showing himself to be, possibly even worse than them. He's more of an Obama, even, I think, than like a Bernie. For real. He just, and the DSA is like, no, he still loves us. He's like,
by the way, your ability to cook up AI images is unprecedented.
Thank you.
Last time it was with Terry Crews. As soon as I opened my phone, I was in shock. Red Guard.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing.
Maybe I should. I bet you I can find that one for everybody. I made an image based on our last stream.
The High Bailiff of Vermont made a statement in Orange County. What a guy. He's the only respectable politician in this country.
Yeah, right. Well, except for Addison Aronson, the director of arts and culture on the Dubuque City Council now.
By the way, sorry guys, because I prematurely called him a city council elect because I confused the position. But he's in a department that is elected by city council. He's not officially in city council yet, but he's in a department that he's running now, which is arts and culture, and it's he got elected by the city council members.
And it's impressive because everyone knows he's a communist, but he's such a personable, well-loved guy that he got the endorsement of our liberal mayor, who's like, on a personal level, he's not a bad guy, but he's a political sellout. And he knows Addison's a communist and ACP member and still voted for him. So it's pretty cool. It's like Addison was able to tug at his heartstrings and prove that his heart was still beating somewhere in there. So Socialist Republic of Dubuque, damn right. Dubuque was a town built by unions and organized labor, so it's absolutely a hot spot.
And you know the story of Julian Dubuque? You know he built...
Sorry.
That's Julian Dubuque, by the way.
Yes.
Julian Dubuque built, when they were doing the mines, he built very good housing for each of his workers, and he was almost like a Owenite sort of capitalist, like a utopian socialist type of capitalist.
And he was very, a little bit of this I'm sure is mythology, but even Dubuque had a big woke period where, a statue at Carlos and my former college was taken down because they found out the guy owned slaves way back when or whatever, and that actually shot the college in the foot because a bunch of alumni were pissed about it and stopped donating. But anyways, it had a big woke wave, but they reinvestigated Julian Dubuque and they found that he was actually very chill with the indigenous people and gave them jobs and thought that they should be treated as equals and shit. So it was kind of a cool story to learn. And this was actually him back in the day. I'm kidding.
Oh
But
my
he was
God.
kind of based.
Oh,
You
I'm
can
such
go
a
see
boomer.
his
I love
grave
these AI
now.
images.
Thank you, Lucas, for the $5 super chat. I've been raking them in today. Bunch of small ones, but a bunch of them. So appreciate you all.
Little by little, you can move 2 mountains. As
My
Mao said.
family is from Dubuque dad's side. Hey, my dad's side is from here too. We should just unite our families and take over. I'm serious. Dubuque is going to be like the hub. It's going to be like the first industrial city where the proletariat rises up.
It is. I have
Yo,
faith.
I have a trivia. Oh, go ahead. Do you have something to say?
No, I have faith. I have faith in Dubuque.
Yeah. I have a trivia question for you. But sorry, I just popped into my head. Every time I go to the bars in Dubuque, people tell me that they know me and they love my videos and that the left needs to get organized and stop being soft and stuff. So there's a real socialist consciousness among the youth here. But trivia question. What was the second country in the world to have a full-on communist, Marxist-Leninist, proletarian, and peasants' revolution?
I know what it is.
Do you?
You don't know that I know, but I know.
Okay. What is it?
Georg Lukács was in the government. It was Hungary. Elite ball knowledge, bro. Come on.
Nice.
Get out of here.
Nice.
The Hungarian Revolution.
What?
The Hungarian Revolution.
Yes, sir. I just learned that through my Politics of Every Country series. The one on Hungary, Austria-Hungary is blowing up right now, doing better than almost any of them, because Hungary has the most fascinating history ever. They had a communist revolution, full-on proletarian revolution right after the Bolsheviks, and they were crushed by a fascist counter-revolution because the Bolsheviks were still fighting the Civil War. So Hungary became isolated. But yeah, they had a straight up and then those communists continued to fight the Nazis throughout the entire occupation. And when World War II ended, they were considered heroes. So when they came back, they would have become communist anyways, whether they were under the Soviet sphere of influence or not. And then the 1956 uprising was like the same. They tried to do the same thing that they did in 1919. It was a fascist counter-revolution. But this time, Hungary wasn't isolated. The Soviets came in and crushed the fascists, and that's actually where the term tanky comes from, because the American propaganda just showed tanks rolling in, but God bless those tank drivers for crushing those fascist freaks, leading the Hungarian uprising of 1956.
Did you know that George Lukács, Georg Lukács, not George Lucas, the Star Wars guy, but Georg Lukács was in the government in Hungary, in the revolutionary government. And then right after, I believe he had to flee to the Soviet Union. And he spent time in the Soviet Union.
I didn't know that until I looked it up the other day, and it didn't have him as a philosopher or theorist. It had like government official next to his name, like a title. I was like, oh, I had no idea. But and Austria too, in the 70s, they were like a thriving social democracy who was politically neutral, and that's because of the communists and socialists. And then IMF infiltration and neoliberalism ended up putting them in a horrible situation today, where now neoliberalism is fucking hated in Austria and Hungary. They're all about right-wing populism. And, you know, if you listen to Viktor Orban talk, he's like a conservative, but he's got some very communist ideas for, I don't know how else to put it. You know, this idea that the collective should come first, the family should come first, and that Western societies are all about the individual coming first, and we're more about the collective and the community and the society itself, and subordinating yourself to the community. So he's conservative and right-wing populist and anti-communist, but it's interesting the direction that they're going. All those countries miss communism. They just haven't figured it out yet.
Austria also had a very influential second international tendency called the Austro-Marxists, quite a few of whom were economists, very prominent Marxist economists. This is why there was sincerely a faith that was not unfounded. It wasn't rooted in idealism. It was a real concrete faith that Lenin had that the revolution was going to spread. And it looked like it could up until 1924, because it had in certain places like Hungary. Had the conditions been, this is why everything is so interconnected when you have a global system like capitalism.
Yep.
Had the Soviet Union not been fucked with the Civil War, that it had to pay 100% of its attention to, who knows how much aid could have gone to Hungary? Who knows how much aid could have gone to other countries? And you could have had a different reality. That hope of the revolution spreading in Europe could have maybe materialized. But you hit one in one side, and it hurts the whole organism, because it's all interconnected. It's like two bodies fighting against each other. You stab the hand, the guy's gonna go like, "Ow!" Now I gotta focus on the fucking hand, and I can't do other stuff. And vice versa too. When you hit imperialism on one side, you should celebrate because you're fighting the same beast.
I mean, if the German communists had been successful, I hate to even imagine this, because it's like, what if, it's kind of anti-materialist, like we got to deal with conditions as they are. But like, if the communists beat the fascists, we could be looking at a communist globe right now. But instead, things went slightly different, and we are where we are. I see someone saying, where does Indonesia fit in? Indonesia was part of the non-aligned movement under Sukarno, and they joined with Yugoslavia in Nasser's Egypt, and these non-aligned countries who were anti-imperialist but not communist and not aligned with the Soviets. And because of that, they ended up being isolated by the IMF, the World Bank, and the Western powers, and ultimately destroyed. And in Indonesia, there was what could only be called really a genocide of left-wingers and communists. 3 million of them killed, and what's detailed in the book, The Jakarta Method, because that's what it was called when the CIA funded and armed these paramilitary death squads to kill people. So the left-wing movements were crushed, and that's why the non-aligned movement sounds kind of cool, but really those countries would have been much better off and more able to protect themselves if they had allied with Moscow. So that's our criticism of them. But name two successful proletarian revolutions, 1921 and 1924, after the Bolsheviks. Thank you, Disco Godfather. Appreciate you.
I think he's thinking about the Germans and the Hungarians, but the Germans weren't successful like the Hungarians were. There was an attempt revolution in Germany, but they never grabbed power. I might be wrong. I would also add, can we consider the Zapatistas pre-Bolshevik?
Yeah.
They called themselves, Zapata said, if what they're doing in Russia is Bolshevism, we're Bolsheviks.
Oh, I think he means Mongolia.
Mongolia had a revolution.
21 Mongolia.
I didn't know that one.
I don't know about 24, but I remember that in my Mongolia episode. Yeah, they had their own revolution, and the Communist Party was popular. Yeah.
Tuvan 21, Mongolia 24. Okay.
I don't know what Tuvan revolution. What's Tuvan? It was in North Asia. Interesting.
I had no idea.
I didn't either. Shout out to him. Indonesia was naive about good faith from the UN. Yeah, all of the non-aligned countries were, sadly. Stocked them, sold out the German Revolution. They did indeed. They sided with the fascists, which just watch how fast DSA and Nick Fuentes people will merge. I mean, they already do. They're all like in the same circles. The same shit. Elite ML knowledge facts.
That's some Morlock shit. I wonder if this is Morlock.
Morlock's the Disco Godfather.
Yeah. I don't know. The timeline fits, bro. He could have been dancing in the 80s. Actually, no, he couldn't have. I think he was too young. But I did. When was our last stream? Did I talk about Mexico in our last stream?
I think so.
Yeah, I think I did. I just posted a video of my trip to the Trotsky Museum. So you might ask, what's the Stalinist doing at a Trotsky Museum? So let me show the video of what I did there. The Trotsky Museum in Mexico, and I had to leave a very important message. Oh God!
Oh, wrong one. We got Kyle on the screen.
I hate when that happens. Guys, I'm at the Trotsky Museum in Mexico, and I had to leave a very important message inscribed into the registry. And that message is that Stalin did nothing wrong. I saw some people that looked at the registry and they were laughing, but I speak only truths. The only thing he did wrong was allow Khrushchev to remain in the party. His biggest mistake was not repressing Khrushchev, but besides that, Stalin was pretty spotless. You know, one of the things that pissed me off, that always pisses me off, is the fucking actually those people in the comments, and they're like, well, but this, and Mao actually said 70-30, and what about this? It's like, shut the fuck up, bro. You or no, there was one guy that was like, there's no such thing as Stalinism, it's just Marxism, Leninism, actually. Bro, shut the fuck up, bro.
Those are people who, like, Hakeem said that in a video once, that Stalinism doesn't exist, it's actually Marxism, you know, which is relatively true. I mean, you could say that Stalinism is like a strategy for governance, or people know what you mean when you say Stalinism. But people take it like autistically to be like, well, actually, you can't ever use the word Stalinism to describe Stalin's era because it doesn't technically exist.
These people are probably so fun at parties. It's like
they're the guy sitting in the corner. Nobody here knows my knowledge of the USSR.
Or Pumped Up Kids is playing, and they go up to someone. Do you know this song is about shooting kids? Oh, just chill, man. Enjoy the music. Dance a little bit.
Can we put on Dance with the Devil by Immortal Technique?
Oh, man.
Do we have anything else today?
No, I don't have anything else. I did a couple other videos for my Mexico trip. I posted like 6, but I still have some yet to post on Instagram, which is my bigger platform. But yeah, let's see how this unfolds in Venezuela. I've heard so many mixed things from specialists. I've heard someone like Colonel Douglas McGregor say that the troops that are stationed have been there for too long. It's demoralizing. Energy's very low. You can't do anything like that. So he's probably going to have to pull out. And then, you know, you hear different things from other people. So hopefully there's no war. Hopefully they pull out, because it's going to only bring suffering on both sides, unnecessary.
Yeah, in solidarity with the people of Venezuela, of course. Make sure you do anything you can to fight against this. And the best way you can do that is by joining the American Communist Party at acp.us. We will get you involved and plugged in immediately with your chapter. Check us out. And then if you want to support Midwestern Marx, patreon.com/Midwestern Marx is the best place to do so. And we appreciate all your guys' support. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next stream. Thanks for hanging out.
Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no right. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, unless enjoyed by one. for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. Let no one build walls to divide us, walls of hatred nor walls of stone. Come greet the dawn and stand beside us. We'll live together or we'll die alone. In our world poisoned by exploitation, those who have taken now they must give. And end the vanity of nations. We've but one earth on which to live. So come brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in the song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. And so begins the final drama, in the streets and in the fields. We stand unbowed before their armor, we defy their guns and shields. When we fight, provoked by their aggression, let us be inspired by life and love. For though they offer us concessions, change will not come from above. So come brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The International unites the world in a song. So comrades, come rally, for this is the time and place. The International ideal unites the human